On this next episode of Dinner Guide, I'm going to be bringing some blossom to the studio today. I'm going to be bringing a guest on board for the first time ever on this show. But before I proceed, I'll just allow him to say a few words just to introduce himself. Noam?
Just 1 second. I'm the first guest in the show?
Yes, you are the first guest on our show.
Really? Nobody told me. I thought you were like 20 before me. It's too much pressure. I don't know if I can.
No, you'll be okay, man. I'm shy from my nature.
Okay, but I will try.
All right.
What do you want to do now?
So Noam, maybe you can give us an idea of what to expect for the show. Maybe give us an idea of where you come from, a bit of the wine background. And of course, I'll just sum that all up by giving you an idea of what to expect from the meal end.
So I'm Noam Hor, the host of the Cellar Liquor Edition, the show that shows you all about Nairobi nightlife, the fun, the cocktails. Today we're not going to talk about that. Today we're going to talk about unique Israeli wines that we bring from Israel to Kenya, and we're going to do an amazing food and wine pairing with Chef Andy. I'm really excited to see what you ate for us. I hope everything is kosher, and I'm sure the wine will be delicious as the dish you're going to make for us.
Thank you very much, Noam. Now, without further ado, we are going to take a break now, and when we do come back, I'll show you something very, very beautiful with some pork, and I'll also be showing you and giving you some very, very simple tips on pairing this very simple combination. So don't touch that dial. We'll see you very soon. Hello viewers, and welcome yet again to another episode of Dinner Guide, but this time we're going to be having it as a guest version Dinner Guide. My name is Chef Andy once more, and on this particular episode we're going to be doing things a little different. I've of course mentioned in the introduction that we are going to be focusing on something somewhat more like pairing, something a little different for you all to enjoy. But before we begin, I will also hand over the mic to my very, very beautiful host of today, which is Mr. Noam. And he can also give you just a small idea of what to expect for the show today. Noam?
Thank you, Andy. Sorry. Thank you, Chef Andy.
Thank you, sir.
Never call the chef without the chef because you can get in trouble.
Okay.
Hi guys, I'm Noam from the Cellar Liquor Edition, the host of the TV show, and I'm the importer of Baraka Israeli wine. Today we're going to have the first time, I think that's the first time we're doing it.
Yes,
I'm doing a cooking show, and that's the first time we do food and wine pairing show.
Exactly.
So I really hope that we'll make it work and the combination and the flavor will match. I'm sure they will do. What are we having today? Because you know, as an Israeli, Jewish, I have something that I cannot eat.
Exactly.
Like I personally eat everything, but...
So on this particular episode, Noam, I'm going to be working with some pork. I hope you're a big fan of pork. Okay.
With what you're gonna, with what? With pork? Oh my God. So the problem is that I love pork. I shouldn't have said that in television. But the Jewish religion doesn't allow us to eat pork. It's called kosher. There's a lot of rules and regulation. But I do hope that nobody in Israel will watch it, so I can eat whatever I want, but just don't tell my mother that I eat pork, okay?
We can do just that. Now, Noam, maybe we can begin by finding out what kind of flavors are you looking forward to today with your pork? What would you like in there? It's a particular favorite.
I don't usually eat pork in Israel. I eat it sometimes when I travel the world. I find that pork, especially a bit of a smokiness to it, a bit of herby feeling, sensation, goes really well, just the kind of the meat. The wine that we're going to pair it will be the Cabernet Sauvignon, but we're going to touch it after. What kind of seasoning do you have?
All right, now, just to make your day, we actually have something on the show today which we're going to be working with. So I do have some original za'atar spice. Now, this was sent to us by a very, very beautiful guest. And this we're basically going to be using to give that bit of herb crust to that beautiful pork. And I'm also going to be using some smoked sweet paprika. Maybe, Noam, you can give us an idea of some of these ingredients.
By the way, I'm the beautiful guest that sent you. That's why I said that, because I'm standing near him. Okay, so what we have here. First we have, this is the flavors of Israel, of the Middle East, let's call it. Right. Za'atar, basically, it's, let me just open it. Za'atar is a mix and combination of between 5 to 10 different spices and herbs that grow all over the Middle East. We have a bit of mint, a bit of coriander, we have a bit of sesame. In the Middle East, we eat it with everything. On our bread in the morning, with our salad, with our pita, with our eggs, with our vegetables, not with our pork, with our different kind of meat.
Right.
You can see that the texture of it, I don't know if you can really see, the color of it, so each country have a different kind of color. Let's say the Lebanese za'atar will be a little bit more yellowish.
Right.
The Egyptian one will be a little bit more green.
Right.
Personally, I think that the Israeli one is the best, but I'm biased. Everything from Israel I think is the best.
I believe
Beside ugali. The Kenyan ugali is better in Kenya.
Good stuff.
This goes really well. Now to get more deep flavors, we have the sweet smoked paprika.
Right.
Now, the sweet paprika originally is come from Hungary.
Okay.
But you have different methods that you can smoke it to have a bit of unique aftertaste. Let me just... You're good with your hands.
Yeah.
I'm good with opening bottles of wine, not with handling with spices.
Very much a pleasure.
Even when you open it, you can just smell. You cannot smell, unfortunately, but the smokiness to it, it's unbelievable.
Actually, by what Noam is mentioning on this particular beautiful ingredient before us, the smokiness does come from that roast effect that the ingredients get, particularly the peppers, before they actually go into the drying stage. So what actually happens is as soon as you open one of this, it does give you somewhat of a smoky aroma, and this will particularly be a very good addition to this simple dish in front of us today. Now, before we finish, Noam, I think you also brought us a beautiful bottle of wine that we can be pairing this with, and you can give us an idea of what to expect.
You told me to bring wine.
No, I'm sure we had a bottle of wine lying around here somewhere. Yeah, make sure we have one. This will take a small moment, guests.
Maybe... you're talking about...
Yes, there we go now.
So it's only for decoration. Okay, so we have here one of our best Israeli wine. It's called Vision Cabernet Sauvignon from Tepperberg Winery.
Right.
Tepperberg Winery, that's the oldest winery in Israel.
Okay.
They are producing wine more than 170 years, 100 years before Israel was actually a country.
All right.
It's a family winery for 8 generations. This Cabernet Sauvignon is full-bodied. It's a bit oaky, a bit aftertaste of tannin. You can feel a bit of ground even. And I think because we're going to have a lot of flavors into the pork, we need, when we do food in one pairing, that the flavor will synergy together. We can't have soft wine with a heavy dish because then the flavor of the dish will overcome the wine.
Very good point noted there, Norm. And even actually just to bring you back to some of the things we mentioned with the ingredients, that beautiful body of the wine combined with the beautiful smokiness of that paprika and of course the beautiful herbs mixed up in there, we should be able to come up with a very beautiful dish and a very good success for the pairing. But because we of course have to cook the dish first, we will of course take a very short break now, get everything on the go, and when we do come back, I will be showing Noam a very simple technique of how to marinate his pork, and we will proceed to cook this very simple cut, which will of course take us to the last and final part of the segment for this particular episode. But please don't touch that dial. We'll see you in a little bit. Welcome back, viewers. For those of you who just missed out on the beautiful introduction we had to this new beginning of a very beautiful journey, you can always be able to recap for this and many more on our YouTube page. That's BrandPlus TV, that's our handle. You can also be able to air your comments, queries, or any particular questions that you may have pertaining the ingredients that we have on the show, or as well as any particular questions that you may want to air out to Noam in the future. So you can be able to do so on our Facebook page, that's BrandPlus TV Kenya as well. But now, before we begin, I'll let Noam take the steering and probably give us a nice, beautiful beginning to this show.
So I know that chefs always cook better when they have a bit of wine in their system.
That's very correct.
So can I give you some wine in your system?
Of course.
Excellent. That's what I wanted to hear. So we're gonna give you first the Tepperberg Vision Cabernet Sauvignon.
All right.
One reason is because I really like this wine, and the other reason is because it will perfect with the pork. Let's bring the corkscrew.
And probably, Noam, you can also give them maybe a slight introduction of how to open a bottle of wine. So for some of you who may not know how to open one, or rather open it the right way, this will be the best opportunity you have. So Noam, take the stage.
First thing you need, corkscrew. Corkscrew have 5 different stages, they call them. We have the knife, we have the handle, we have the penetrator, and we have the elevator. First thing, we need to remove this metal capsule that prevent the wine to oxidate. The way to do it is do really small cut, then do another cut up. Then what will happen, it will peel like a tomato, very easy.
Very, very simple, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you'll all be able to do just the same thing that Noam has done this far.
It took me 15 years to make profession in that. Now, it's very important, especially when you serve to other guests, you can have a bit of metal pieces on top of it. So just take a napkin and clean it. Then we're gonna insert just in the middle, if you can see. Give it a small push and just rotate it all the way up. That we have 2 levels in the surface. You can see 1, 2.
So by the 2 levels, you basically mean count 1 circle and the second one and stop at the end of it.
Exactly. That you have 2 circles up.
Right, and Noah, maybe just a small question. Is this any different from the double-handled corkscrew?
Yes. The double handle is for old people, so don't use it. This is the most perfect way. This is like the professional one that the restaurateur and waiters and bartenders use it. You can use the one that look like a person. It will look like a lady with a big dress. If we don't have it here, so with next time, we'll use that to show it.
And maybe you can give our viewers an idea of where to be able to purchase this very simple tool. If they may actually want to be able to buy one on their own.
Actually, I want to tell them when I can purchase the Israeli wine, but if you want to tell them about the tool. Okay. So actually the tool you can find in any supermarket, any wine store. It shouldn't cost you more than 500 shilling. And the thing that you do need to make sure that you don't press it too hard because it's very gentle. Right. Even when I'm going to open it, you have, this is level number 1, this is level number 2. That's the elevator. So level number 1, you press not too strong and lift it very gently. When it's all the way up, you go to stage number 2 and then you stop. And the reason why you stop, and this is personal story that happened to me, I manage in a very luxury Italian restaurant in Israel a few years ago, and I opened a bottle of Chateau Lafite, a French wine. It cost like $2,000.
That's very expensive.
It was very expensive. I was sweaty. That was my first day at the job. Like a lot of very rich people around the table let me open the bottle, and I got so excited that I opened it, and then from the vacuum, the $2,000 wine exploded on everybody. So when you reach that point, gently take a napkin and
or a cloth of your choice.
Cloth, whatever.
Yeah. Simple as that, ladies and gentlemen. Also, maybe some pointers of course, how to take care of your corkscrew. Maybe how best to store it.
Just say one thing. When you open the corkscrew, you know, a lot of people in the movie, they open the wine in the restaurant, they smell, and say the wine is good. This is not true. Only 2% of the population can actually detect something wrong with the wine.
All right.
What you do need to learn when you look at the corkscrew is how far the wine reach. Because if the wine reach more than half, that means there is defect in the cork.
And of course, air is in the wine.
And the wine is spoiled.
Okay. Very, very important for those of you who are taking notes, and for some of you also looking at some beautiful tips of being able to select your bottle really, really well and to be able to open it as the same. You've of course managed to be able to hear that beautiful, beautiful gesture from Mr. Noam.
Another important thing, when you finish with the corkscrew, put it in your pocket, because a lot of people will try to steal it from you.
All right.
Not you, but in general.
All right.
Right. Now, can I pour you?
Yes, please. Let's go for it.
All right.
Now, as I mentioned, ladies and gentlemen, we have, of course, Noam here, who's a very, very good and very well experienced wine specialist. And you're going to be able to find out this and more of some of the tips that you can be able to get from Noam. I will definitely make a point of sharing the details with you, but I will also not forget to bring that beautiful introduction back once more, where he'll of course give you an idea of what or where to find your wines, and of course a little bit more details of how to select and pair your wines as we continue. All right.
Before we're going to drink, we need to let the wine decant a bit. When we rotate it, there's a few ways, few things that we can learn about it. What I will say now, and then we give another tip. When we rotate it, we let the wine breathe. We let the wine actually open.
And you actually get that beautiful aroma coming through as soon as you...
Right
exactly. Right.
Color. Ready to try it?
I'm ready to try it.
Cheers.
Cheers, Noam. Very good. As Noam mentioned a little earlier, you are going to be able to detect a little bit of bitterness at the back of your tongue. This particularly gives you the tannin which Noam had mentioned in the beginning. And Noam, maybe you can give them any other ideas that they may be able to, some ideas they may need to know, especially when it comes to tasting a bottle of wine. What do you think you can share?
So let's do quick wine tasting in 1.5 minutes.
Okay.
And you're going to be the trainee, okay?
Okay.
I'm going to be your trainee in the cooking, you will be my trainee in the wine.
Perfect.
So we taste wine with all of our senses. How many senses we have?
We have 5 senses now.
First sense is the sense of touch.
Okay.
What is the proper way to hold a glass of wine?
Of course, very importantly, from the bottom.
That's not correct.
This is not correct.
Sorry, chef, I have to be strict with you.
All right.
We're not going to hold it like that because our body heat will warm the wine.
Okay, very important point.
That because we're not snobs from Nairobi Country Club.
All right.
We're going to hold it like that from the leg.
Okay.
Number 1.
Very important to mention, the leg would basically be just below the bowl and just before the end of the stem of the glass.
Second sense, the sense of smell. As we said, when we rotate it, we let the tannin. The tannin is a natural preservative for wine. Small enzyme that live on the skin of the grape. When we let it breathe, it's actually dissolving and release more flavor and more fragrance. Sense number 3, sense of
your sight. Okay.
The way we have to look at wine, usually we do it on a white. You don't have
actually, maybe I've got a nice board here that we can work with.
Excellent.
Okay.
When we look, we can actually see with different wines, the halo of the wine can give us idea which kind of grape is it.
Okay.
Another thing, it can tell us the bodiness of the wine. Take a finger and hold it.
All right.
If you can see the finger, that means that the wine is not full body, less than medium body. Here you cannot really see it.
Okay.
It means it's a medium body. Another way to indicate the fullness of the body when we rotate it, you can see we have here.
And this, I think we should call them, I think their name also referred to the tears of the wine. Yeah.
Tears or legs. We call it angel tears. You know why? Because Israeli wine is so good. When you drink it, an actual angel cries in heaven.
Is that so?
No, it's not. But it's a good story. But the
I
way
almost
we can
believed
see
it actually.
the legs, you can actually see the owner. That means it's a full body wine.
All right.
Okay. The third, fourth is the sound. So grab your glass and listen to the wine.
All right.
I can't believe you just did that. But
I actually thought I'd be able to hear something.
There is sound to wine, and let's do cheers. You hear? That's the sound of the wine.
All right.
Now, why do we do that? Do you know?
Actually, ladies and gentlemen, to this particular point, I actually thought it was just to knock glasses and actually look fancy. But maybe you can give us an idea, Mr. Noam.
Historical times, a couple of thousand years ago, when nations or army went to wars, and the night fall, the armies withdrew. And the two generals or kings had a dinner to command each other.
Okay.
And a very smart soldier once had an idea, let me poison my rival king or rival general glass of wine, then it will die and the war will be over.
Exactly.
It worked once or twice, but then people realized, wait, maybe something is wrong with the wine. So they used to, I'm not going to do it here, they used to fill the glass all the way up.
Okay.
When they do
which
cheers,
is of course wrong in this modern day, right?
Yeah, but when you cheers, my wine go to your glass. Okay. And your wine go to my glass. So if you're going to poison me, you're going to die as well.
We're going to die as a pair, actually.
Exactly. And in Israel, we say the salute to cheers, we call lechaim.
Okay.
Lechaim in Hebrew, it means for life. But when we drink it, we continue to live after it.
All right. That's and a very, very beautiful gesture.
The most important sense is the taste. The way to properly drink wine is like that. The most professional way. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. That's not a professional way. Not a lot of Kenyan like to jug the wine like that. The proper way to try it is to take a sip of wine, play around in the palate, up, down, left and right, and the taste bud will get the full extraction of the flavors.
All right, and this basically just means guggling the wine in your mouth very, very gently. And of course, something also, Noam, that I also managed to pick up in my very little knowledge of wine.
You have a lot of knowledge of wine.
Of course. Now, I also managed to depict that it's also very, very common for wine sommeliers to also taste the wine and spit it to be able to get a full round flavor of the wine. Maybe you can expound on that.
So, first, when you drink Israeli wine, never spit it, okay? Drink it.
Okay.
When you do a wine sampling, when you do a wine tasting, you don't want the judgment to be clouded by the flavor when you drink it.
Exactly.
So when you have like 20 different wine, the way to professionally try it is to sample a bit and then spit it out. You wouldn't get drunk.
Okay.
When you do food and wine pairing in your show, we're going to drink the whole bottle, man.
There's no way
we're not going to drink the bottle, just to let you know.
Perfect. Now, with that little beautiful introduction by Noam, and most of you have been able to grasp some beautiful tips and tricks to be able to actually stand out in your next wine tasting tour. But now, Noam, we're of course going to proceed to the next segment of the show. So for that, I'm going to, of course, need you to get very sanitary by grabbing some gloves, of course.
I mean, I'm not sanitary.
No. Actually, very important to mention to you, ladies and gentlemen, when you're working with meat and working with ingredients and you particularly have ones that can very, very easily contaminate, always very important to wear some gloves. This will particularly aid in limiting any chances of you contaminating your food. And of course, if you're going to be enjoying a beautiful glass of wine at the end of this beautiful process, you may of course also want to not have that bit of aroma and a bit of smell on your hands, especially when working with food colors or ingredients that may actually color the ends of your fingertips. So now, Noam, we're going to...
And you look super cool. Yeah.
And it actually looks super cool.
I never cooked before and I look like a chef.
Good stuff. Now, we're going to start this very simple process, and Noam, I'm going to assist you as we continue.
I hope it's simple because my cooking skills is like that. Like
I'm very sure.
Basically, not more than that.
Now, for that, some of you who may actually be worried about being able to cook racks of pork, very, very simple. One particular thing I will insist on, always have an oven ready and hot. An oven will always, of course, aid in making sure that your pork is cooked through. And of course, it always gives you that bit of advantage of giving a nice, beautiful finish to your dish. It allows for your meat to cook low and slow and allows for you to get a nice, beautiful tender cut right at the end of the cooking process. So we're going to start by grilling our pork ribs on this beautiful big griddle here, Noam.
Looks like a really big pork.
This is basically about...
Pork, by the way?
Pardon?
Did you know that pork?
No, I did not know it, but I do know of the farmer that delivered this to us.
He's a nice farmer?
This is a very, very good...
pork from a nice farmer.
This is particularly very good, and I'll be able to show you this by explaining just a bit of the meat. Please. So I'm going to begin by lifting my rack and turning it over. Now, one particular checkpoint you very much require to always make sure, especially when picking pork, always make sure of a beautiful ratio of red to the white fat coloring. Remember, a lot of white coloring on your meat, of course, means you have excess fat, and of course, a nice, beautiful, thin coating of that very skinny layer, of course, always gives you the notion that your meat is actually beautifully aged. And another thing to always make sure as well is you should almost have a V kind of effect to your rack. This is a very, very important point to make sure as well, Noam, because when you get that beautiful V right there, it actually means that, or it actually gives you the idea that this did come from the carcass of a pig. I do know of a few instances whereby clients have actually had an issue of trying to figure out the difference between a rack of lamb, a rack of pork, or even a rack of beef. So that particularly is two very, very good checkpoints for your pork. Now, before we proceed to grill this, Noam, I'm going to just move that into this bowl. Okay. And of course, this will, now this we're going to begin to season very, very lightly. So I'll need you to stand right in front of the board today.
I'm going to bond with this pork first.
There we go. Now we're going to start off this simple marination process by adding our sweet paprika. So I'm just going to add about a teaspoon of that to a teaspoon and a half. And you can already begin to get that beautiful spiciness and that beautiful smoke from it, yes? Good stuff. Now, next up, we're going to also be adding a bit of our za'atar. So just sprinkle that right around. And because of the beautiful effect of the herb and color, I'm going to go double with this one. So you may require to go 2 teaspoons for this.
You did 4 teaspoons.
No, that's actually 2 teaspoons because I'm using a very small spoon.
Okay.
Now, next up, we're also going to be adding some salt. So be very, very light with the salt.
I have a question for you. Yeah, usually, because sometimes when you go to a restaurant or when you cook, the salt ratio is too much. As a chef, what you recommend? Do a little bit less or a little bit more?
Now, for particular instances, especially for cooking, very, very different recipes call for different techniques. So I'll always insist, especially if you're going to be marinating your meat, very important to season very, very lightly, particularly for the fact that you may actually season the meat after cooking. And especially when you're serving this to guests, sometimes on the table, you may actually have your salt shaker seated right in front of your guest. And a lot of us have the instinct to just go for the salt before trying the food. So I'll always insist, if you're going to go heavy on marinating with salt in the mixture, you may actually want to avoid adding or placing any salt on the table, because it also gives the guest the notion that the food is seasoned and they may not actually have to season the meal after that. So very important to mention, if you're going to be seasoning, you can go a little lighter on the seasoning if you're going to be having some condiments on the table, or you can of course go very, very harsh on the seasoning and omit any particular additions to your table.
Do we need to put a bit of wine in it?
No, not at this stage, of course.
I don't want us to waste wine.
Okay, you can have a glass of that. Now, just to proceed to season that, just a nice small dash of a bit more salt. And of course, for that beautiful heat, some freshly crushed black peppercorns. Be very, very generous with that. And now, Noam, all I'll need you to do is now work your magic into that meat. Of course, being very, very slow, very gentle.
Slow. I want to ask you, how strong should I go?
You can go as strong as you can.
Slow and gentle like that? Or
No.
Like that?
Think of it as a slow romantic massage. I like to always think of it, especially.
That's a bit disturbing.
No, it's not disturbing. I know my wife is watching and you may actually find this obscene, but I particularly like to use a very slow technique of marinating. And the beauty of it is it particularly aids in getting that flavor right into the meat and through to the bone. So what you can also do is work your fingers around the meat. Yes, and you can also toss it around a few times. Actually, you can actually pick it up and rub it a little bit. There we go. Now just work your hands around it, massage it as you continue. And of course, this will also aid in just getting, you can slap it as well. Make sure it's nice and herbed up. Now, one particular thing I can also share with you when it comes to marinating or seasoning meat, you can also alternatively cut a few incisions on the surface of your meat, and this will help the flavor to penetrate all the way to the bottom of, or to the inner part of the core.
By the way,
Beautiful. You're doing very okay, Noam. You're doing very okay.
Would you take me as a...
Yes, you can actually be my assistant. Yes, I definitely would. Now I'm going to aid that by adding a little bit of oil. Now oil particularly also helps to cushion the heat once it hits the pan. Second of all, it will help in spreading that mixture evenly and give a nice generous coating. Right. So you can proceed to rub that a little bit more.
I'm rubbing it, man. I'm rubbing it.
Good stuff. Now just to bring your attention to the other end. Yes, sir. Now just to bring your attention back to the pan on the end here. Very important to mention that if you're going to be cooking cuts of meat, particularly with a bone, you may actually want to make a point of finding a very good skillet or thick base pan, or a good griddle, particularly this kind, will always aid in getting that extra heat right in there, and of course aids in browning and cooking your meat a little faster.
Can I just say one thing? You need to drink.
Okay.
I'm continue with the rubbing and the massaging of it.
There we go.
It will be very hard for me to eat it after we bond so much, you know. I give him a massage, I marinate it. But I think it's okay, right? What do you think?
This is very okay, Noam. Now we're going to proceed to place this very gently on our pan. And Noam, I'm going to show you a very simple technique. This I particularly learned over the years, and it will also aid in making sure that you don't spill or burn yourself in the process. So all you're going to do is you're going to pick up the piece of meat. Yes, please.
Okay.
And all you're going to do is make sure that the most bottom part of the meat touches the closest part of the pan. And all you're going to do is just lay it over the pan right up until it goes right across.
just a bit of more wine in me, just to make sure I do it correctly.
Okay, you can take off your gloves at this stage.
I need that glove. Waiting for you, man.
Cheers to that. Salud. All right.
Now, from that side,
you're basically going to, very important to also mention, always start with the side with the most amount of fat. So we're going to be using this side.
All right.
Yes, sir. So as I mentioned, very, very gently. And of course, very important to always drizzle just a little bit of oil on your pan. Remember, that will cushion the heat, and it also aids in giving you a nice, beautiful round color.
I think it looks so good. Instead of cooking, can you just put it on the wall? Appreciate the...
No, because you're going to have to taste it, of course, means we'll definitely have to cook it. So, of course, the side with the fat goes right over the top.
Here we go.
All right, and just go very gently right to the end. Very important to mention, at this stage, you actually want to be very, very gentle with your meat. For two particular reasons: for the fact that you do want to get the beautiful griddle marks on the meat, and of course it will also aid in giving a nice beautiful cooking and coloring to the dish. Now we're going to allow that to sear on the pan very, very gently, and I'm actually cooking this at a bit of some high heat. I'll just proceed to light my next burner. And now something also very important to mention with meat, Noam. Very important to start your meat at high heat. And of course, reduce your heat towards the end of the cooking process, because this will always allow the meat to be nice and tender.
So this is why I always burn my burgers.
This is exactly so. You start with slow heat, and then you get hungry, and then you go up. Very important tip to mention: if you're going to be grilling meat, start off at high heat, and of course, by lowering your temperature right in between the cooking process, it allows for slower, even cooking, and it actually allows for a bit of flavor to also combine and marinate on your pan.
Now question, how long this bad boy gonna, because it looks so good, I just want to try it now.
Now for particular cuts such as this, they will actually color very, very quickly. So we're actually going to give it a look very shortly. Now you can lift it very lightly from the side, and you can actually will lift it from the front, and you should actually be able to see that nice beautiful char mark going right across. That should give you your first call to turn it over. So same thing, turn it over and allow that to sit on your pan very, very slow. And it's as simple as that. Now I'm going to also throw this right in the fridge. No, we're going to save that for you a little later after the booze kicks in. And now once your meat is just beautifully colored on both sides, we're going to proceed to throw this in our oven. So as I mentioned, yes please. And as I mentioned a little earlier, very important to always make sure to actually reheat your oven in good time, just to be able to save that cooking time and the cooking process. What do you think of our ribs so far, Norm?
Can I try them now, or we have
No,
to wait?
no. These are actually half cooked, so we're going to have to finish them off in the oven. So as I mentioned, very, very simple technique. Once you've finished browning your meat, you can proceed to throw this in the oven. So you can proceed to also set your, calibrate your temperature to about 180 degrees. We're going to be using both top and bottom element. As I do not have a fan for this particular oven, of course it will take you a little more time, but if you are using an oven with a fan in it, it may actually cut your cooking time by half.
How long are we going to put it in there?
So we're going to be leaving this in here for anywhere between 15 to 20 minutes. So we're going to just slide that right in the middle there. Just give that a close. And now as we proceed to give you some beautiful tips for this very, very simple dish of ours, we're also going to allow you to take a break at this stage. I'll also allow Noam to just freshen up for a little bit. And when we do come back, I'll show you the last and final result of our beautiful dish. And we're also going to show you some tips and share some tips of where you can be able to purchase yourself this very, very beautiful Cabernet. So please don't touch that dial. We'll see you in a little bit. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. If you missed out on what we were doing a little earlier, we've been basically finishing off this beautiful cut of pork. We basically managed to grill it on a griddle on the side, managed to get that beautiful color on it with the help of Noam, and we're right about ready to start carving it. So we already have one piece that's still on the go, but I already pulled out one that we actually had done a little earlier. And now with the help of Noam, we'll begin by carving this beautiful cut of meat. So let's see. Noam, let's see how rusty you gotten in the past few.
Okay, let's see.
So very simple technique. Always have a fork of some kind that will aid you in holding the meat. All right, so now you're gonna go at an angle this way.
This way?
Then yeah, right between the ribs, it should be able to come off. No, at an angle, there we go. Yeah, so very simple technique, as I mentioned, very simple to do at home, and actually takes a very short amount of time.
It's not so simple,
but you can manage to get the hang of it, yeah? All right, now while Noam continues to do that, I'll also take you to this other side of the station where we're going to proceed to reduce some very beautiful sauce. So very simple technique. Begin by adding about 3/4 cups of wine to a hot pan. Allow it to begin to come to the boil.
Wine, yeah?
Yes, of course, the Cabernet. And I'll season that very lightly with a bit of some ground black peppercorns. I'll also add to that some salt. This is just to be able to break the sweetness of the wine. And of course, last but not least, a bit of that beautiful smoked paprika. And now what happens to that is you can be able to get that, it brings that beautiful smokiness to it. And this is particularly that tip that I was mentioning a little earlier in the show. A nice beautiful way of combining all your ingredients to one particular dish. And this will particularly be able to give you a very beautiful sharp taste that will actually combine all the flavors right from the wine all the way to your meat.
Chef, should I put it on the plate?
Yes, please. Okay. You may proceed.
Wait, there was something I always wanted to do. Where's the salt?
Oh, yes.
No, like this famous Turkish chef, right? That is cutting the meat.
All right.
And then you do...
So go for it. A bit of seasoning. And ladies and gentlemen, it's as simple as that to season your meat from home. All right, now we're going to proceed to move those onto the plate.
The presentation to look really nice.
And just to aid you in that, I also brought you some thyme.
Now we eat with our eyes.
There we go. Actually, very important to also mention, as I always do on the show, with all the effort that you put into a dish, always also very handy to actually plate it in a more attractive way. And as you can see, my guest has pretty much managed to grasp that very simple concept. Right, so just going to turn that up a little bit.
Should I remove the leaves? Or
No. Actually, for this, you're going to break one of the stems off in whole, which you can place right over the top. Just like that. You can spread them around. Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
I think like that is better.
Exactly. And then now you can probably tear up a few of the rest, scatter them around your plate.
Like I told the crew here, like I'm the one who eat everything. I'm getting so hungry to just by the smells of it and the way it looks that I'm not going to share it.
But I do hope you will actually now change your touch of pork enjoying, and you can actually now improvise with some of your beautiful spices from Israel.
Of course.
Yes. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, you can also alternate the ingredients for the pork. You can also do the same with some beef ribs or some lamb. You should actually be able to grasp it really well. But of course, very important to mention, the cooking times will calibrate, of course, depending on the size of the cut and of course the quantity of your meat. Right now, simple as that, Noam. Now we've come to the last and final part, which is the sauce.
Okay.
And all you're going to do now is I'm going to hand this over to you. And you're just going to hold the pan and tilt it very lightly to the side. And you can now go over and grab some sauce. And that you will just simply go around your plate, giving that nice, beautiful touch of finesse. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is as easy as it is, as my guest has managed to prove on the show today. You can actually be a chef in half an hour.
No, you have to be a chef, you have to learn a lot, you have to give respect, You can pretend to be a chef in half an hour.
Very importantly. But of course,
I
it's the last touch that counts. Of course,
really can't wait
the
to
bit
try
of
it.
time that you put into it. Beautiful stuff. Right now,
can we try? Or we have
yes,
to-
actually,
okay.
this is the last and final part where I want to bring your finesse. Now, you can proceed to just cut maybe about 2 pieces from there.
With
Of
my
course, with
hand
the
or-
fork.
with the fork.
Same thing as you did in the beginning.
I was so expected to eat it with my hand, but it's okay.
Right, slice it right through to the end.
I had a bit of trouble to find, but I think I
You
got
should actually be able, yeah, just like that.
on the left.
So Noam has actually brought up something very important. I particularly like to make sure that a bit of my bone is exposed before I actually cut or right after cooking. And all you need to do is cut everywhere that you actually have 2 or 3 pieces of the bone protruding, cut right in between and actually allow your knife to guide you. And as you can see, it will actually be able to give you a nice, beautiful cut of pork.
Can I try it now?
Now, my good friend, I think we can dive in here.
Try this. This looks much nicer.
Actually, what we'll do is I'm going to just pour some sauce over your cut
And the most important thing,
and a bit of the thyme.
I love thyme. Now, I used to work in an Italian restaurant in Israel, and we had a guy, we call him the thyme guy. His whole job was to sit every day
And
and
just pluck each leaf of thyme one at a time.
He wasn't such a smart guy, that's why we gave him that job. But it is an important job. Okay, a bit of that, a bit of that.
All round.
So I'm gonna take
Right.
the big piece, okay?
Go for it. Go for it. Now you're basically going to take us through and give us an idea of what you feel from your first bite.
It looks
Very colorful.
presentation is
How's the
beautiful.
aroma? How's your
aroma-
senses reacting to this simple dish?
amazing. And the way you can feel the juices coming out. And okay, I'm gonna shut up
Right.
now and try that.
Let's actually go for it. Nice big bite. Ladies and gentlemen, I think our work here is done. Now I'm going to...
I have to work all of that out. I'm not just starting.
All right, while my beautiful guest on the side here proceeds to enjoy the last and final bits of that beautiful cut of pork, I will of course take you through the last and final step where I will begin to, of course, wish you a very beautiful evening. I'll also invite you for the next episode where we'll continue to bring you some very beautiful optional guests and of course bring some nice beautiful flair to the show.
You know what's the problem? We just started with the best guests. So all of the other guests will just be...
Hopefully we'll not get to that point, but if we do, I'm sure you'll be able to write back to us and give us your feedback.
Guys, this
But
is
now to bring you...
delicious. Go out, buy a pork chop pork, pork ribs, buy some za'atar, some good Israeli wine.
And of course, maybe you can give them an idea of where to be able to find
You know, I'm a bit torn apart because one hand I want to finish eating, but I need to expand my body one.
And
Right?
exactly.
So the Israeli wine, you can find it in supermarkets such as Chandarana, in wine stores in Lavington, the Whiskey Shop, Mega, Heaven, Monty's as well. You can contact us on Facebook or Instagram, Baraka Israel, and we can deliver it to you. You know what the best thing about the Israeli wine, beside the way they flavors, there's no hangover and no headache because they're almost organic.
That's actually very important to mention.
It is?
Yeah.
Another important question, I finished that, can I move to that?
Yes.
Excellent, and I don't even need the sauce, I'm just gonna eat it just like that from the bone.
Good stuff. Now with that, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the last and final part of the show. I will bid you farewell at this stage and of course urge you that you can actually be able to recap on this and more on our YouTube page, that's BrandPlus TV Kenya. And you can also be able to air out your views and your comments through our Facebook page, which is BrandPlus TV Kenya as well. For those who may have missed out on this whole episode, you can also recap on the video or the recap of the show on our YouTube page, that's BrandPlus TV Kenya. And we of course are more than happy to always hear from you all. But for now, I will ask you to, I will bid you a nice, beautiful evening. Noam, anything you want to say to the guests before we proceed to...
It was a pleasure. I'm going to indulge myself. Have a good night, guys.
Have a good night, everyone. See you soon.